It's Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, Towerfall. Let's do this. So last night, I was playing some Counter-Strike, and I kind of wanted to play casually, so very often if I'm just playing, like, you know, play for an hour after we do a Geek Nights or something, I'll just play Demolition Mode, because it's basically like a hyper-focused version of regular Counter-Strike on half-size maps. So it's more about, like, it's the same sort of strategy, it's just a much sort of smaller, tighter experience, and you don't have the weapon buying, you have the sort of gun game reverse progression instead. It's probably a better pubby casual experience than actual, like, classic casual is, just because, you know, the kinds of players and the shortness. But anyway, I was playing the other night. I found a really good group of people. Like, you got a set of people, so 10 people who are all, like, pretty into the game. Good voice chat banner going. The teams are pretty even, mixing it up. But then we were playing on that lake house map. And for whatever reason, the team that was playing as the counter-terrorists just sucked. Like, they were playing really, really badly in the first half. Or sorry, the terrorists. But anyway, they were playing super badly.
So the team you weren't on.
Yeah, the team I was not on was so bad.
Even worse than you and me. Like
I'm okay.
Worst.
I'm probably like 2 full skill bands above you, but like 4 skill bands below Andrew. So I'm playing the game. We're crushing them, and it's not like, oh, they don't know how to shoot. It's just they're being really overly cautious about getting into the house. So as a result, we were in the house holding it every time, and they couldn't get into the house. And they were just like, they would lose every round, even if it was close, because of that. So they kept getting more and more cautious. So at the end of one round, one of my teammates is like, nah, why don't we just let them win one? So then the next round starts, and I'm like, actually, guys, let's just hide and see what they do. So we hid behind rocks way back behind our spawn. We fired a few like desultory shots at the house to like knock out some windows and things. And then we just hid and didn't move, didn't even look at the house and didn't do anything. And we just waited. And it was the over-under on, are they going to plant the bomb? Are they afraid we're in the house? What's going on?
What were you going to do if they did plant the bomb?
Fucking charge in and see what happens.
Right, yeah, okay.
But it would have taken us a while to get there. Like, we might not...
I was going to say, you're far away from the house. If they plant, you'd probably run in and go boom.
If that had happened, it would have been 7-2. So I think we would have been okay.
Okay.
So sure enough, we kind of see them like surrounding the house from all the different angles and very cautiously and slowly approaching it as the timer runs down. And then finally, with 30 seconds to go, one of them like crouch walks very slowly up the outside of the house, sneaks in a window, goes down to plant, and I deagled him with a headshot. And I was very proud.
So you're just watching that entrance from real far away?
Yeah, we were all laughing about it. Everyone was like fighting over who got to kill him. So that was my Counter-Strike the other night.
Okay.
Yeah, got any gaming news?
No, because I haven't really played any games lately. There's no multiplayer games left to play.
Counter-Strike.
Nah.
Rocket League.
Can't play Rocket League with a bad matchmaking.
I've had little trouble. Besides, Phil and Shay are playing. We got friends who were playing.
Yeah, I played with them, and it was, you know, I'm not very good at Rocket League, but I was better than all of them at Rocket League.
So we need, like, both of us need to play.
Or they could level up. If they leveled up, it would be good.
We just need to get 6 friends who, there are at least 2 teams of roughly equivalent skill between the 6 people.
I mean, I'm not playing, so my skill is staying still. So you guys can all catch up to me, right? Yeah, I'm not getting any better.
So, in the news, the Ghostbusters game, the tabletop board game.
Which one? There's so many of them.
The tabletop board game that was kickstarted a while ago that I made disparaging comments about before I'd read the rules. Because
well, I mean, I know nothing about it other than that someone's kickstarting a Ghostbusters board game, but that would give me a bad sign because A, it's kickstarted, and B, it's a licensed property on a board game, which is usually a sign that is going to be a bad game.
Also, C, Cryptozoic.
Oh, man, that's the worst.
So it was like the triad of, I assume this game is going to be bad, and I disparaged it as such, but the Kickstarter raised $1.5 million despite...
Yeah, board games are huge. Board games are expensive.
Ghostbusters is huge.
Ghostbusters is huge. So, you mean you could just make, you know, a game where you open up the box and it's just a bunch of Ghostbusters toys and some D6s. And
And that's
people pay
basically
for
what
that,
the
right.
game is. It's a bunch of Ghostbusters toys and dice.
Okay.
That's the game. So I've not played this game, and I will not play this game. The game is bad, but I should qualify that. It is bad at being a game for people over the age of about 10. They decided
Well, what are the ages advertised on the box?
15 plus.
All right.
I would say this game, honestly, like I'm not joking or trying to make fun of them. This is a 6 to 10-year-old person game.
All right.
It is, imagine, so remember Necromunda, like those games?
Oh, you mean Mutant Chronicles?
Yeah,
Is
all that kind of game. All
You mean
those games like that.
Hero Quest and Descent?
Yeah. So imagine those kinds of games
And the D&D ones where it's just like a dungeon in a box?
where the rules are a full order of magnitude simpler. There's really no equipment upgrades or anything. The combat is simplified to like single die rolls, and the maps that are arranged and the scenarios you do are so generic that they literally might as well apply to any potential situation. There is nothing related to Ghostbusters in the game mechanics. I mean,
You mean this game?
yeah, this game. It's basically this game.
No, this one in the picture.
Yeah. So
That you
imagine,
didn't look at.
like the way the gameplay seems to go is co-op and wander your Ghostbusters around these tiles that make all these basically identical maps, and you've got to like get a ghost with your proton pack, and then maybe you want multiple people to have gotten that same ghost, and then you roll some dice and put them in a trap and then put them in containment. But periodically, ghosts are coming out of containment into the real world, and there's really nothing else going on. You kind of generically level up. The characters are all from the Ghostbusters movie, and they all have these super fucking generic, like, not even related to the theme at all, sort of unique powers that are meaningless. And there's nothing to this game. Like, I read the rules 5 or 6 times, and I cannot imagine there being anything to this game. Like, there's nothing to do. I can't imagine it being amusing. And they talk about how customizable it is.
People play Hero Quest and they don't realize it's broken.
So imagine
Because they're dumb.
But imagine Hero Quest, but literally 100 times simpler.
How could it be simpler than Hero Quest?
But
I mean, if you go less than Hero Quest, you're like in Zombies territory. But at least in Zombies, you overcome the lack of depth in the small things by having quantity, right?
no, you overcome the lack of depth in Zombies because Zombies is a cheap game. The Ghostbusters game is $85.
What the fuck? You could get Eclipse. You get XCOM for less than this.
Yeah. So
How are you paying $85? What the hell is in there? Like gold
a
plated?
big Stay Puft Marshmallow Man who has basically generic mechanics, just like every other generic ghost in this generic skin
But I mean,
game.
is that Stay Puft Marshmallow Man like a high quality like kid robot toy that would be like $20-$30 on its own?
No, they're like a step above Hero Quest, but they're not really paintable because it's hard to describe, but
I'm
they're
sure
kind of
people can paint anything.
yeah, but they're kind of too smooth.
Sand it, prime it.
And they don't have the kinds of like grooves and ridges that I would need to paint something like
Sand
this.
it and prime it.
No, I'm saying like it would be hard to paint the detail in because the details in the piece, like the lines, are not deep enough.
I mean, pros, that doesn't stop people who are good at painting.
Yeah, I just don't
But
think
I mean, they need to be painted. They're just a solid single color.
they're all solid single colors.
Okay.
But like I don't even want the gameplay is just nothing. Like it's pretty much co-op Guillotine is the level I'd put it at
But Guillotine isn't anything like Hero Quest.
in terms of the amount of thinking you have to do.
Oh, which is none?
Almost none. You could play Guillotine badly if you really wanted to.
Okay.
But like the problems, like it comes down to it doesn't even fit the theme of Ghostbusters very well. Like use your proton packs to like get the ghosts, but like you can't cross the streams. Like nothing like that happens. Like none of the things.
Not
you'd
even
expect-
accidentally?
No, like that's not a mechanic.
You don't have to
somehow.
bargain with Gozer or Zool?
No.
No? You don't
Nope.
have to insult the mayor?
You make scenarios, and
Can
I
you
already
Can
read.
you get slimed even?
Yes, you can get slimed. You
Can you-
can't die, so
can
you
you-
can just get slimed.
Can you like collect things and research them?
No, nothing like that.
Can you drive around?
Yes, you can drive Ecto-1 around. So imagine the fire truck
In Flashpoint?
In
Where
Flashpoint,
you just drive it around the side of the house?
but it doesn't really do much, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to use.
I mean, it's a pain in the ass to use the fire truck in Flashpoint, but it does a lot.
Yeah, well, Flashpoint is bullshit because the dog can't drive the fire truck, but that's totally separate. So
why didn't they make this Ghostbusters game where you drive around town instead of one where it's focusing on one building?
So I was reading some things about the back, like the game design and everything, and apparently, like I found this tidbit.
Who designed this game?
I looked up the names of the
What
people.
else have they made?
So the game appears, based on a bunch of other people's research, to be just a reskin of this other game called Zombicide.
Okay, I never heard of it or played of that.
Which looks like it was also a Kickstarter. I mean, it's not the kind of game we would play. But what's interesting about this game is not that it's bad. Like, it's not good enough to even bother reviewing all the reasons it's bad in detail. You can figure that out just by reading the rules. But the reviews of this game have been surprisingly glowing, even on places that should know better. And as I read a lot of reviews of this game, and what I want to point out is that almost all of them rated the game pretty highly if they had a number or a metric, and talked a lot about how it's great and it's Ghostbusters, but when they actually describe their experiences, they all but say that the game's boring, but they avoid actually saying out loud directly that it's boring.
This is what all the reviews are doing lately for things like Fallout, is in the written review, they can just write whatever they want because people don't read, and even if they do read, they have no reading comprehension. And then they put a big old number at the end because whatever. Metacritic, whatever.
Yeah, but if this is what $1.5 million gets you, like, what could they possibly have spent that money on except the production values of the pieces?
I hope that they were intelligent. I can respect them if they spent it on awesome vacations and houses and cars, and they made this game for like nothing, and are like, "Lol, we're riding you dumbasses who will buy anything with it says Ghostbusters on it."
I mean, the thing is, this is a great, like, it is a fine little kid game. Like, it is probably great at that. You know what? It's a better game for 6-year-olds than Monopoly by far.
Is it better than Hero Quest?
Hero Quest is twice the game this is, even with every flaw we know about in Hero Quest.
But Hero Quest is so broken.
It is, but at least in Hero Quest, if you make your own scenarios using the rules, there's something different about those scenarios. Other than just completely making up brand new rules, I cannot come up with any way to make a scenario in this game that is materially different from any other scenario other than the proper nouns.
All right, well, is the map in this Ghostbusters game a grid?
It's a grid.
And how big are the pieces?
So it's 9 squares on a grid, and you use a bunch of those squares to make the map.
Okay, so here's what you do. You buy these pieces, and then you get a better game, such as Descent, or those D&D ones where you use a grid of squares, and you just use your Ghostbusters pieces to play the other, better version of the same game.
I attack the Lord of Ravenloft Castle with my fighter.
Yes.
I mean with Venkman.
Yes.
With Venkman. But the best thing that was pointed out to me when I was sort of alluding to the fact that I was going to talk about this game on the show tonight was someone pointed me at the rankings on Board Game Geek, and basically, if you look at the 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 ratings, it's people who say, yeah, Ghostbusters. And if you look at the 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, it's people who say, whoa, game mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
The most frightening thing, though, is the Polygon review, because at the bottom, I'm gonna read the paragraph they said, because I cannot link this to the game. Quote, overall, the game is a good value.
For $85?
$85.
The prices in this is going to go way down.
The PC game is like $15 right now.
It costs way more to produce.
The PC game is basically like a 45-minute long Ghostbusters movie. Is it bringing anything revolutionary to the experience? Not really. But it's an exceptional application of the theme and a deep gameplay experience. Polygon, what the fuck?
Who wrote it?
I'm going to see who wrote it right now. Hopefully it's not so Charlie Hall.
Charlie Hall. What do you know about video games, what board games, Charlie Hall? What do you know?
Deep gameplay experience? I read these rules like 10 times.
Have you even played a Kinesia game in your life, Charlie Hall? I don't even know who you are. Maybe you have.
But deep gameplay experience... Swords and Strongholds is 1,000,000 times deeper than this game.
That is true, and that's a game that takes like 5 to 10 minutes.
And
you
also,
know what you're doing.
I also take issue with exceptional application of the theme, because the theme is not actually present in this game. Like, the proper nouns are there, and this vague notion of Ghostbusters, but the character's unique, like it's Venkman or whatever, right? their powers are super generic. Like
This is power being sexist and jerky.
the powers are things like get an extra XP when you catch a ghost if you're already slimed. It's like the most generic bullshit ever.
Okay.
I really.
Why are you so mad about this one game?
I'm not mad the game
there's
is
so
bad.
many of these things.
I'm not mad the game is bad.
This is not the first example, nor will it be the last.
I'm curious as to if the reviews saying the game are good are because
We're
actually
paid for?
because full disclosure, after I originally trashed the game, I found out that I actually know a lot of people tangentially involved with this game, and multiple people actually emailed me and were like, "Why are you so down on this game?" And I wonder if I think a lot of people who review games know people associated with this project.
It sounds like Gamergate talk.
Yeah.
Some ethics and games journalism issues you're bringing up.
I do think, however, while Gamergate is bullshit, and you're obviously trying to trap me here.
I think Graham you're just walking right into it. I didn't think of that until 2 seconds ago. But you're basically saying,
but Scott,
game reviewers friend with the game designer. This ethics in this review.
So
that's exactly what you just said.
Remember the Wheel of Time when the girls are going to do that thing, and they're like, "This is probably a trap," and they're like, "Yeah, of course it's a fucking trap, but we got to go anyway."
Mm-hmm.
That's why I walked into this because I think that did have it here. But 2, I also think that a lot of people might have bought the game on Kickstarter, realized it's not great, but reviewed it before they got it and played it. And
that's another thing is we know there have been studies about, like those studies about wine and stuff where they're like, oh, the more expensive wine tastes better.
Yep.
And there's also the one where it's like, if you bought something, then you like it more after you bought it, which is people are always like, oh, we expect reviewers to actually buy the things that they're reviewing. It's like, no, it's much better if they get it for free.
Yeah.
Because then they'll just, judge the quality of the thing and they won't incorporate this sort of force themselves to like it because they bought it thing. I'd much rather have people review something that they just got or played for free than something that they had to spend their money on and thus flavors their experience.
And so in the end, basically, this game, it's not a bad game because it made its money, and it's probably a really good game for little kids. Like, this is the kind of game that, like, grandma gets you for Christmas when you're 8 years old.
If I had it when I was in first grade and Ghostbusters was the #1 thing, hell yeah, why not?
And that's totally fine. But these reviewers who are adults reviewing it on websites that basically only adults read, acting like there's a game here.
I mean, most adults, when it comes to board games, don't like anything hard.
I don't think most adults who will play this game could even, look over how poorly skinned and really, really
These are the kind of people where you
is.
try to teach them T&E, and they're like, and they roll their eyes, and like, oh my god.
I think.
And there's the kind of people who play Munchkin are totally happy with it and will play it 10 times at every single convention we
All
go
right,
to.
I will get the people who like Munchkin will like this game, but people
who can play Cards Against Humanity and not get tired of it.
I think the Cards Against Humanity people would get real fucking tired of this game because you just do the same thing every round until you win.
I'm just saying, there's we go to places, there's a lot of those kind of people.
But here's the difference. This game does not even have a mechanism of, whoa, something crazy happened, because the mechanics are so simple, literally nothing crazy could ever happen. At least in Munchkin, oh my god, he won in 1 turn because of some crazy bullshit. Oh my god. That can't even happen in this game. That's how bland and sterile it is.
You're so mad about this.
I am kind of mad about it.
All right, so another board game important news. A while ago, Asmodee, which is I guess now the biggest board game company there is, except unless you count Hasbro, which has Magic and I don't know, but it's super big in Europe.
Well, because they're basically Fantasy Flight and Days of Wonder
right,
now.
They bought Fantasy Flight, they bought Days of Wonder. There's some gigantic board game conglomerate now.
Yep.
And they basically announced this big thing where they're restructuring their distribution worldwide and in the US, including the Final Fantasy Flight, the Days of Wonder. And basically what it means is this. So first they had some ambiguous statement, but then they had a more clarifying statement in a press release. And basically what they're saying is, number one, they're changing / limiting to only certain distributors, right? Which is kind of fine. There's 5 or 6 some distributors you can get their games from.
Is a sign of maturity in the industry.
Sure, whatever. And they're going to basically make the biggest part is that they're making these rules where if you're a game store, you have a bricks and mortars around your store and people walk into your store and play games, you're going to get a different distribution deal than someone who sells online. They're still going to allow online sales, but if you're a physical store, they won't let you sell online, right? The stuff that you bought through that distribution deal. So it's similar to like, this is not some illegal thing, right? Apple does stuff like this all the time where you're the manufacturer, and you have a special deal with the retailer where the retailer has to do what you say, right? Best Buy can't discount iPods and iMacs and things because Apple says no, and if Best Buy does it, they'll just stop giving them iPods and iMacs, so Best Buy has to listen.
Yep. Or acquire them at retail and mark them up, which isn't going to work.
That's not going to work. So basically, if you're Amazon and you want to sell, I guess, Fantasy Flight games, you would buy them from a distributor and then sell them, but you would get a different deal at a different price, probably a higher price, than the local game store, say the Complete Strategist would get buying them. And then, the Complete Strategist would basically pay less for the same game than Amazon did, and then hopefully would be able to sell it in their store for, a competitive price with Amazon. And then, right? The only thing is the Complete Strategist then would not be allowed to sell the games they bought on the internet. They would only be allowed to sell them in their store.
I'm going to be perfectly blunt here.
And if they got caught selling them on the internet at, that higher margin, right?
It'd be an angry phone call to start.
Right. They would stop getting, games from the distributors.
Or they might lose the sweetheart deal that brick and mortar stores get.
Or who knows, whatever.
Yeah, we don't know that. Now, their rationale, because this is part of their press release, and this is very important because I'm going to be this is a good move for them and a good move for the tabletop games industry, in my opinion. Quote, Asmodee North America is committed to brick-and-mortar hobby market specialty retailers. We are very hopeful that our upcoming policy changes will balance the existing marketplace to reflect the value of those outlets providing outstanding customer experiences in a physical retail environment and whom allow for so many gamers to enjoy events, demonstrations, and in-store play. So on one hand, this incentivizes game stores to continue to exist because you actually do need the local game stores to be able to have the events, the tournaments, the teach and plays, the local community around the game.
If there was no, they only sell Netrunner tournament kits to stores. They don't sell them to just anybody. If they didn't have Netrunner tournaments, would I be playing this much Netrunner and keep buying all the cards? Probably not, because none of my friends play it with me.
But the reality is, most people want to buy things online, so...
Well, most people don't even live where there's a game store. That's what, in a lot of the threads about this online, a lot of people are like, because at first, before they had the clarifying press release, people were like, wait, they're not going to sell games online anymore, right? They get everything messed up, right?
Yep.
Which is not true. But they're like, oh my God, how am I going to get games? There's no game store within 30 minutes of me, and the one that's an hour away is a shithole, and they charge too much money, and blah, 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 right?
Now, this is also a big move for the maturity of the tabletop industry because it's always been really weird and amateur hour that so many tabletop games were sold online in these like third and fourth tier, like go to a game store website and buy it from this weird place or buy it directly from the guy who made the game. And that's cool for like the indie stuff, but it's weird in the mass market. And it was confusing for people, and it actually caused a lot of instances of I guess I'd call it adverse arbitrage, where people could, and I've done this, people would go to local game stores, buy a game, list it on Amazon for way more because that game's actually worth a lot more and the game store didn't know and shit like that. So there's no reason to have 1 million stores online selling the game. Only the malls, only the like mass market distributors really need to have the wholesale channels and the distributor channels to sell online. People are going to go to something like Amazon, or they're going to physically go to their game store. The game store trying to sell online, or the anime store trying to sell online, or any of those specialty kinds of stores trying to sell online, not viable in the long run in the face of the mass market.
Well, the thing is, you might think, oh, this is helping the game stores. Now they can sell their games at a reasonable margin, right? Because they're getting a more discount than Amazon
but I
is.
think a lot of game stores make a lot of money selling online to the weird dedicated... There
are a lot of game stores, right? That will go and they'll buy a shit ton of copies of a game, more than they can sell in their store, and sell all the extra ones online because they know they can.
Yeah, real talk. You can't be a consignment store like that anymore.
Now, the local game store is going to buy like 3 copies of a game that comes out because that's all they can sell in their store physically because that's so many physical customers they have. And now, even though the margin on those 3 copies is up because they're getting a big discount for being a store compared to right? They can't sell any online. So their total revenues on that game are way lower. But meanwhile, now Amazon, who is allowed to sell online, is going to buy a zillion copies at the worst price from the wholesaler, but they're going to sell all the copies and end up actually making more money because they're not competing with every game store selling 5 copies each online, individually.
Yep.
So I don't really know if their plan of helping the local game store is actually going to work out
just
by giving them a better price.
It's going to help the local game stores.
If they wanted to do that, they should just ban Amazon from selling games at all.
But that would mean even I wouldn't be buying games.
Sure, I mean that's what I'm saying is that hurts the people who don't have a game store near them and have no other way to get.
It also pulls that anime crap where the industry stays sort of weird and not like other mainstream industries. And eventually causes this sort of like walling off, inward focused, navel gazing disaster and collapse.
I'm also curious. There are a few particular cases where this may or may not cause a big disturbance, right? There's a store in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Team Covenant store, and I know about them because
I know about that store.
They do a lot of Netrunner stuff, and they interview Luke Crane a lot, and like basically they're a game store that only sells a few games, right? And they support those games like crazy, but they don't have like a huge game library in there. It's like they really support a few games, including all the Fantasy Flight competitive games, right? Like the Netrunners and the X-Wings and all that kind of stuff. So the way they make their money being in Tulsa, Oklahoma is obviously they have customers there, but most of their business, as far as I can tell, is selling online, like subscriptions. So it's like if you want every Netrunner card, you can subscribe to them annually, and they'll send you every one as it comes out. They have a really close relationship with Fantasy Flight themselves, but are they going to get an exception? Or are they going to no longer be allowed to sell online and have to cancel their subscription business and basically ruin, I think, a lot of their revenues as a whole? No one said anything about that.
Well, there's another part of the press release. You just give me a second while I stall because I have to pull up a different article that I was looking at about this. But while I'm stalling, the reality is that kind of like the brick and mortar store that actually makes most of its money selling stuff online just isn't viable in the modern world.
What about that little place that sells goods over next to the Rezo box?
Do they sell most of their stuff online? Is it stuff I can't get on Amazon?
I mean, it's just, tchotchkes and whatnot.
Yeah, but that's the thing. What if they make all their revenue like that? That store is basically acting like a warehouse.
Yeah,
that happens to open their doors like the arcade was.
Exactly.
Oh, here we go. Here's the other.
Isn't that what complete strategy?
An announcement by Asmodee quoted Christian Peterson.
That's the president or whatever of Fantasy Flight.
The marketplace has long been distorted by providing one-size-fits-all sales terms to every retail account regardless of its channel of sale. The growth in demand for games over the last decade, in our view, has been fueled not only by blah, 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 retailers and even players. I'm trying to find there's a quote in here that was instrumental to this. The retailer cost of providing such channel services is significant, and so we're now making policy changes to ensure that sales terms provided to those retailers relative to other channels are positively reflective of the value they add to our distribution chain.
Right.
So, quote, they say that basically
in other words, we're going to give retailers a lower price than we give internet stores.
The only online retailers that will get the deal are, quote, significant scale, unique service, or other exceptional differentiation.
All right, maybe.
So I'm pretty
Team
sure
Covenant sounds like they have those
I'm pretty
things.
sure Team Covenant's okay, but
they have
like,
exceptional differentiation and unique service.
But like the Dragon's Den and Poughkeepsie, probably not going to get the deal.
No. Well, I mean, they're going to get the lower price for being a retailer, but they're not going to be able to sell online.
Exactly. I don't know if they sell online. I don't even know if they have a website.
Why would you buy from them online?
Yeah. But anyway, things of the day. As you all know who've been watching my channel, I played through all of Undertale, and it's a pretty fantastic game. But I found this YouTube channel, Adresaurus, and she took songs from Undertale, wrote really good lyrics to them, and then performed them. And I know that's a thing that like nerds do with games that they like these days, or like shows that they like.
Music.
But this is so high quality and so well done from every perspective that I'm kind of dumbfounded. You should seriously check these out.
Like a professional musician person?
I didn't look into her details at all, but I'm going to link to her. She has a Patreon and Twitter and all that stuff. I'm just going to link to her and one of these. But it is, I know a lot about music theory and composition and arrangement. And in my opinion, these are very well done. The bar to doing these in a way that I will notice has been raised significantly by this one person. These are great.
So there's 2 boys' schools, and they had some sort of chess competition between them or something. And apparently one of the competitors was like a huge jerk. Like everyone hated him for whatever. He probably had an attitude or was super confident, right? So here is like a 1 minute, not even clip.
23 seconds, I believe.
23-second clip of the most important moment in this high-pressure chess match, which is mostly high pressure because of the jerkiness, the supposed, according to the internet, bad behavior and general disliking of the player who is closer to the bottom of the image.
It appears that Uppance has come, and it might have been a wombo combo moment.
Maybe.
In the meta moment, we're going to be at PAX South. That's actually coming up. Like, it's not that far away.
It's so soon. It's so soon.
We are doing 3 panels. Well, we are doing 2 panels, then I'm on a 3rd panel. So, Atari game design and designing game rules, 2 brand new GeekNights lectures, and then Scared Yet? A discussion of horror games, which is me, Chris Straub, Susan Arndt, Dave Allen from Penny Arcade.
Okay.
So, it's going to be basically... I'm probably mostly going to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's, but
what other horror games have you played?
Well, I might argue...
Silent Hills?
I might argue what is and is not a horror game.
Resident Evils? I don't think Resident Evil's a horror game.
At best,
it's a puzzle game and or action game.
Some of the Resident Evils are close to survival horror, but they're not horror.
You want to do a horror game, you should check out that Japanese one with the clock tower or whatever.
Oh, whoa, D?
No,
not
the
D.
one where the girl walks around and it's,
What about Fatal Frame?
I don't know if that counts, maybe.
That's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about. I imagine part of this panel is going to be arguing about what horror actually is. But anyway, it's going to be an awesome PAX South.
Why don't you just, you can just judge that from film. We know what makes a horror film.
Yeah, but you don't have to play films. And also some films... Is it horror or is it just a slasher thriller?
I don't know.
Are Jason movies actually horror? What about Freddy vs. Jason, which is basically just edging into torture porn and also basically comedy?
Yeah.
So what's the line? I guess a bunch of smart people and me.
Only Rim thinks torture porn is funny.
I thought Ichi the Killer was mostly hilarious.
Yeah. Okay.
Mostly. There's a couple moments that are not hilarious.
All right, any other meta-ness? Oh, holidays are like, I don't know where you live in the world, listener, but the holidays of the United States are very soon. Like now.
Christmas is like 2 days from now.
The day you're listening to this, which is probably Wednesday, or depending on where you live, I'm going to go to sleep after recording this and wake up. That day, I'm barely working, and then I'm not working again until January 4th. So don't expect there to be a lot of Geek Nights between now and 2016.
But we are going to do a show on Christmas Eve.
Are we?
Yeah. You told me what we're doing the show on. We added it to our calendar.
I'll see if I'm here.
Do you remember what the show is?
I'll just see if I'm here.
The Santa lie.
Okay.
You pointedly were like, this is what we're doing the show on.
All right, but will I be here?
Well, if you're going to be gone, let's do that tomorrow then.
All right, we'll find out.
Yeah, or we could do it right now.
Well, tomorrow I don't want to come over here because I'm leaving work early. I just go home.
No.
I don't want to come back here.
All right, if you said we do this show, and now I've shit-talked if we don't do the show anyway.
Whatever, that's not my fault. I didn't shit-talk.
Yeah, but this is like the first time ever you came to me and were like, this is what we're doing the show on. Usually it's...
That doesn't mean I said we're definitely doing the show
on
that day.
Yeah, you did. You said, let's do it on Christmas. I can pull up the chat log if I need to.
Okay, but I might not be here. So
where are you even going? Home to Connecticut?
Yeah, why not?
But there will be a bunch of Patreon exclusive stuff because there's 2 Rims Rants for our patrons. And while we're not doing Geek Nights because we're busy with holidays, I'm going to keep putting stuff up there.
Well, in addition to being busy with holidays, I'm also not working a lot. So I'm actually have a lot of time. And if I, actually decide to make something instead of just, eating and laying around.
Oh, also?
I'm going to make free stuff to compete with Rim's not free stuff.
Watch Scott's YouTube live stream, YouTube Gaming, because I'll probably be using it a lot in the next few weeks. But one of the
sale started.
So in the December Q&A, one of the questions, because I skimmed them, that came from the patrons for that show. Basically, they asked what the fuck happened to Beantown. And I think today we figured out what to do instead of Beantown.
You still shit talked on that too.
I did, because you know
You're
what?
Such a shit talker.
In the patron exclusive Q&A episode, I'm going to talk about why I'm not making Beantown anymore. Fuck Beantown.
Okay.
Beantown is now Project ST again.
Okay.
And Project ST is a really good idea. Scott had the best idea.
Maybe I'll just down and maybe I'll get to finish it without you. I got a whole week of doing nothing. Are you going to work next week?
Partly.
No, I'm not going to work at all.
If you can finish that game next week without me, my hat is off to you, sir.
If I'm doing nothing, like not even going to work, and I don't do anything else, like play some games.
Except, I suspect you're going to play some Rocket League.
No, I haven't played that in a long time.
You're just done with Rocket League?
Until they fix matchmaking, and it's just like, there's no point.
I'm not having a lot of trouble with matchmaking lately, actually.
You got to get a little bit better.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just a little bit better. You'll hit the line.
So as we'd mentioned before when we went to that party, is we played a ton of local multiplayer games. Not necessarily co-op, just shared screen local multiplayer like Screen Sheet and
there is a
Starwall.
significant shortage of these kinds of games in the world.
There are a lot of them, but most of them are really bad.
And a lot of them are like just, you know, there are certain genres that have a lot of them. For example, the side-scrolling brawler, like a Streets of Rage, it's like this co-op and all those. Pit Fighter, Final Fight. But, you know, they're usually only 2 people. If you got an X-Men arcade machine, you can get 6 people, but it's not super attention holding. Walk sideways and punch everything until it's over, right?
I mean, I put probably like $80 or $90 into arcade machines of that genre.
Ninja Turtles, Simpsons.
Yeah, mostly Simpsons and playing Hagar and just doing the butt slam over and over and over and over again.
Oh. Okay.
Played a little bit of that at MagFest. But these games are also interesting because people seem to really want to play them. But like I said, a lot of them are actually really, really, really bad or not actually that fun or have the worst menus and GUIs in the world, and we can't even get them to start with multiple players properly.
Magicka's not bad if you know, for the co-op area.
Yeah, Magicka's okay, but
especially local, because then you don't have to deal with the stupid internet problems.
But I'm actually way more interested in the Ortho game competitive ones.
That support more than 2 people.
Yep. Also because the co-op ones usually, like, say you're at a party.
Right, there's plenty of local competitive games, but they're usually fighting games, and there's not a lot of, you know, I mean, it's like a Nidhogg. You know, it's like
Street Fighter.
Yeah, but it's a fight. But I mean, for a party game with local multiplayer, it's like Mount Your Friends.
Yep.
Jackbox. You know.
But the reason I focus on that is that with a co-op game,
Worms.
like if you're at a party and your friend's like, "Hey, let's play this 4-player co-op game."
Combat.
The four of you play it for a couple hours instead
Bomberman.
of being in the party hanging out. If it's a fighty game, like
Starwall.
hey, let's do one of these fighty games like Starwall. Then people are rotating in and out like an arcade for the entire party. Like the 4 people playing at the end of the party are not the people who started playing.
Right, but it's weird that like this category is so weak that I can like name every reasonably okay game in this category.
So I suspect, because I overheard you playing this game, that we might disagree, because I think Towerfall is one of the best of these.
Oh, it's so bad.
Why? So seriously, Towerfall, Matt Thorson, pretty recent game, like 2013, 4-player, multiplayer, shoot arrows at each other on a screen, single screen, no scrolling. I think it's a fantastic game, and I love the shit out of it.
All right, so the concept of this game is a fantastic game, right? It's basically like Atari Combat, you know, where you're a character on the screen, and you're trying to shoot the other people, and when they're all dead, you win, right? So conceptually, it's good, and it does a mix-up on Atari Combat by making it a platformy.
Yep.
And you shoot this arrow in one of the 8 cardinal directions.
But you only start with like 2 arrows.
Yeah, you can run out of them, and then they stick in the wall, and you can pick them up, which is cute, right? And it only takes 1 shot to kill, right? And, you know, so it's like conceptually, this game is really good. And it also has things like really good music, right? Things
it
like
has
that.
the Atari Ortho game thing of a million options.
Yep. There's plenty of, you know, if you get bored of one mode, there's like so many modes and customizations that it really would be hard to get bored of it if you like it, because you can keep changing it up, right? My problem with the game is simply that it's not, the lack of polish on the specific implementation makes it really, really hard to play.
In what way? Because I'm super good at this game and was super good at it immediately the first time I touched it.
All right. So, I mean, I wasn't bad at it. I won like 1 or 2 games, right? It wasn't a problem of, oh, I'm bad at this. It was a problem of just, it was so frustrating. So here are the things I find frustrating about this game.
All right.
All right. So they went with the pixelated graphics, which aesthetically I like. just looking at them, statically. But as the game works, at least even on a giant television, we were playing this thing, right, with the PS4. So it wasn't a matter of, I can't see, it's too small, and I have the best vision. But because things are pixelated and there wasn't a lot of contrast between characters in the background or things in the background, it's like you really couldn't tell what the fuck was going on. Like a lot of times I couldn't find my character. I couldn't tell if if the thing falling was another character or myself, or if the character was dead or alive, or if that was an arrow or a trap or a what. And it's like you just can't see what's going on because it's like you play Smash Brothers. It's like you can see like that tiny thing is clearly that particular item because the graphic design is just so good, and you need to have that level of graphical clarity in this kind of game, or else it's just like I can't even tell where the fuck I am and what's going on.
So counterpoint, while I do agree that the character sprites should pop more,
the character sprites are the worst of all of the things by far.
But I did not have that problem at all. And I had the added experience of I took a bunch of different people in a bunch of different situations, like since we first started playing this game, who had never played this game before. Some of them are gamers. Some of them just don't play games. And I basically introduced it to them and watched them experience it and start to play it for the first time. And you know what I saw? They pretty much all, without exception, gamer or not, achieved mastery, or at least got past all those issues you were talking about within, I don't know, 3 plays, and did not have this confusion problem that you were having.
All right, well, I basically couldn't tell where I was on the screen half the time, especially because problem number 2, the game starts you in a random spawn position, 1 of 4 spots.
Yep.
And unlike, say, Bomberman, which goes where you're getting ready and you can find where you are before the game actually starts, it's basically, here you go! And it doesn't give you any fucking time to figure out which of the 4 corners you're in, and then you're dead before you even get to do anything.
I did not have that problem.
You gotta give me 3 seconds to figure out which of the corners I'm in, or spawn me in the same corner every time.
You really had that much trouble. There's only so many pixels.
I died at least 5-6 times because I couldn't figure because I couldn't know which corner I was in at the start, and then I was dead while I was still looking. The game started, and I haven't even pushed a button because I'm looking to see am I the guy in the top left or the bottom right, and then I'm dead before I push a button.
See, I guess I didn't have this problem because I'd look at the screen, I'd see the yellow ones in the bottom left, and I was good.
Well, maybe it's because I was the blue one, and there isn't enough differentiation between the blue and the green.
I played the blue one. I like the blue guy a lot, but I go with yellow because it's a crazy old laughing man.
Well, maybe the yellow is a better idea because none of the other ones are even close to yellow.
Yeah.
All right.
In fact, the only time that's a problem is if 2 people pick very similar characters, but as soon as I achieved a little bit of mastery, I started doing that on purpose because it didn't affect me, but it really fucked up the other guy.
All right, so problem number 3 is the controls, right? Now, they're not the worst controls. They're not bad NES game controls, right? And they didn't make a mistake of necessarily the only mistake they made in terms of choosing which button does what is that to double jump, you don't actually press jump twice. You jump and then have to dash while holding up.
Because it's not a double jump.
Right.
You can't go up again.
There is no double jump, but you can dash upwards, which is so unintuitive, right? It's I would have just made, jumping while in the air be the dash and get rid of the stupid, R and L for dashing.
See, now I will give you that in that I think I like the fact that you can grab onto ledges, the koala thing.
Grabbing onto ledges is fine, yeah.
But because it doesn't
why can't I dash by just pressing jump again while in the air to the left?
So
why do I have to press L to jump, to dash?
My specific minor complaint is that because people are used to double jump working a certain way in other games, in this game, I will, even after getting really good at it, occasionally jump, and then I'll hit jump again, but that'll cause me to jump off the wall instead of double jumping, because this game double jumping works differently.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only problem with the bindings. The problem I have with the controls is that they're just a little bit loosey-goosey, right? They're not super bad, oh my god, I can't control this guy at all, right? It's you can shoot the arrow in the direction you're thinking of shooting it, it's you're not having that problem.
And the arrows auto-aim a little bit to get around the fact.
They actually visibly home. It's not like they're auto-aiming you. The arrow, when it gets close to an enemy, actually swerves and homes in on them a little bit.
Which I think is clever because that gets around. Because otherwise...
You're aiming in 8 directions. It would be impossible to precisely hit people if it didn't have that homing.
Exactly.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
It makes the game be more about anticipating what your opponent's going to do. Is he going to shoot at me? Well, I could shoot at him.
It's not about Super Meat Boy precision, right? But
once you get a little bit good, it actually really is.
It becomes that, but The problem is that it doesn't. The controls are not as tight as Super Meat Boy. They're definitely not as tight as Mario 3 or Mario World, right? So you just need, the characters, are slip a little bit. It feels like they move. I think it's also part of the speed factor, right?
The game is very fast, which it's
fine if it's fast. Super Meat Boy is fast, right? But it's a little bit. I think the acceleration is just off, right? It's the actual maximum velocity isn't a problem. It's the acceleration is very quick. It goes from like nothing to too fast, oh my god, and then you're dead. And it's like you don't even know what you did.
It's interesting because my experience of play was when you first start playing, like your first few games, it seems so frantic and you just die. It's like playing Counter-Strike for the first time. Like, what the fuck just happened? Let's play again. What the fuck just happened? But then you start to see through the matrix, and suddenly it becomes this very like tight game of like grab the arrow out of the air and shoot it right back at that motherfucker.
Yeah. So, I mean, because, it has these kinds of issues in it, especially with, like, we played with a bunch of items, too, right? For example.
I think you've got to introduce the items one by one and be like, just base game until you, like, get it. And then be like, okay, now we're going to play where you might get some bramble arrows, and here's what they do.
Right, so when we played, they turned all these items on, like, right away.
Well, they assumed you were a pro, and they were going to treat
couldn't
you like
even
a pro.
tell. I couldn't even tell when someone, this goes back to the graphics thing, I couldn't even tell when someone had an item or what it did or anything, right? It was just like, why did I die there? I jumped on you. I had the shield. And it's like, I couldn't see that.
Dude, it makes a giant shield.
The shield is the easiest thing to
character.
see, but I didn't know the shield blocked jumping. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And how was I supposed to know that? And, like, especially, like, I'm about to jump on someone, they would, like, get a shield in them but while I was coming at them, and then,
So when I introduced this game to
no way. So I was like, listen, let's do no items mode. Like, turn all this shit off, right? Because I realized, like, there were times where, like, someone would get the crown. You can't see that crown. It's tiny as fuck, right? It's like, how was I supposed to know?
Well, do you know what the crown is?
It's like, it's the loser's catch-up mechanism.
No, the crown means that person's winning.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was also a lose. Oh,
it always tells you.
The shield is the catch-up mechanism. If you've been losing a lot, it gives you the shield.
No, the crown means gang up on that motherfucker because he's about to win.
But it's like you couldn't see this shit. It was so tiny. So I was like, turn all this garbage off. And when they did turn all the garbage off, it became a significantly better, but it still had those other issues that just frustrated me enough to where it's like, well, this game isn't so great that I need to actually keep playing it and deal with this BS.
See, it's interesting that you were so frustrated so quickly.
It was a lot better turning off all the stupid items.
Because I went the opposite. I introduced everyone of nothing, just like basic game.
You started with the no items. We started with like a zillion items on all over the place.
And we played like just in a group. Like everyone was really into the game. Like people who had never played it before got really fucking into it. Like to a degree that I did not expect, which was in fact, I would not have given this game as much like second look if it hadn't been for the fact that every noob who had never played it before that I made play, except you, got weirdly into it way faster than I would expect normal people to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, and Brad, honestly, the game I would play instead of this would be Scorched Earth, right?
Except Scorched Earth, if you're
it's not real time.
Well, I know Scorched Earth can be. There's that one mode.
That game mode, don't do that.
But the problem with Scorched Earth is if you actually get good at Scorched Earth, you hit with every bomb all the time, and the game's just stupid.
You got to play with all the shit, but that's the thing. You
you don't even need all the shit.
Weather,
doesn't even matter.
Bombs,
you'll just hit every time.
Some mervs.
I mean, I got real good at Scorched Earth, and no one would play it with me anymore in middle school.
I will play Scorched Earth with you.
You want to play? You want to live stream some Scorched Earth?
I will play Scorched Earth every day.
I will. We could run it on a giant monitor with tiny little tanks. Tiny little tanks.
Yeah, let's see you hit me every time, no matter what. When it's like 1,000 million.
It's like, all right, I'm
pixels.
saving up for the Merv, and I'm sending it over to Scott's continent.
I got to use a funky Merv to have a chance.
Yeah.
I'll bury you in a pile of dirt. Now fire your funky Merv.
All right, I'm gonna dig my way out of the dirt for the next 150 turns.
Digger.
Digger. Sandhog.
Digger. Driller.
Digger is a kid guy. Doesn't really work.
Yeah,
Driller is the killer.
Driller is the killer.
But
so I think like if you took this core game and you just polished it up a bit, and made the
I agree with you. If
put a different skin on it,
you could polish this game from a B plus,
and it would be so choice.
It would be A plus. Like it would be.
I think it. I mean, I agree with you that it can be. I don't know if it get A plus, but it could be A.
Yeah.
You could get this to A, but I think it's at C plus right now.
I'd say B+.
But you can make this A easily.
I would say B plus, and I think you didn't give it as much credit as it deserves, but I do agree to a point of some of the flaws you pointed out.
Right. I think I'm just not willing to deal with that kind even small flaws. There's so many fucking good games out there. Why am I going to play I mean, look at the controls on Nidhogg, which is also pixely. But
Nidhogg,
it's like, you never get confused about where your Nidhogg dude is.
Except Nidhogg, there is a deep flaw. Once I tried to.
I'm not saying Nidhogg isn't flawed. I'm saying controls-wise, it is.
Ooh,
right?
no.
You don't think so?
Actually, I have, having played it to the point that I got really good at it. I ran into a problem where the disarmament mechanics of moving the sword up and down to disarm are bullshit. They are very counterintuitive. How it actually works frame-wise is not what you think, and it's enough.
Isn't it just you move your sword up into the other person's sword and they lose it?
Not quite.
No.
And I basically found that if I use a gamepad, like a gaming stick, like my Street Fighter stick, and I just go apeshit up and down while I'm moving around, that'll beat any amount of skill.
Or what if they just, come at you from behind or above or whatever?
Well, that's a whole different thing. But there's some of the maps where you have to have the sword duel, and that part of the game is broken. Broken and shit.
Well, but I'm saying the controls work.
Yeah, but the controls...
But I can always use Mario 3 or Super Metroid if I have to talk about perfect controls too, right?
Yeah,
so
it's so weird that Mario 3 to this day probably... Like Mario 3 and Super Meat Boy probably have the tightest controls in a platformer the world has ever seen.
The other thing I would like to see to make Towerfall, a bit better is just make the game bigger, right? You're on this cramped... I know the cramped thing adds to the hecticness and stuff, which is what the game is about, but make a big map where people start farther apart, sort of like Bomberman, where you get some warm-up before you get in with each other.
I would make that an option.
Right, so you can maybe get an item, learn how to use it, and then now you're encountering people, and you can sort of, think about what you're going to do before you do it. You got time to figure out where you are. You got all, that would go a long way towards making the game like, Bomberman level of good. But it's like, instead, I'll just play Bomberman, right?
Yeah. But in terms of, the tightness, one thing the game does very well
why don't we play some Bomberman?
is the default mode.
I'm in a bomb mood.
It goes until last man standing, and you get a point for each kill you got.
Yeah, that's actually a good thing, I think.
Yeah, the way that independent of the game itself,
because otherwise you get the Smash Brothers problem, where it's like, it's like at the one hand when you're playing for kills the way Towerfall does, sometimes it can be frustrating because it's like, I survived, I didn't get killed, but I didn't kill anyone, and I'm losing.
But at the same time, if you didn't get killed and you didn't kill anyone, what the fuck were you doing?
Exactly, that you're punished, and at the one hand, that's frustrating when that happens to you, even if you were trying to get kills. But it really is the better choice versus the stock play where you get the Rim who hides and doesn't do anything and just defends, just prevents themselves from dying without actually putting themselves at risk.
Yep, which is also what I do in Narwhal.
Everyone has to go out there and try to kill people, right, in order to have a chance of winning, which means everyone also puts themselves at risk of being killed, and action actually happens in the kill mode. The kill mode is the right way for it to be.
I think this is far superior to the way pros play Smash Brothers with the timed attack. Because I'm not a lot of people I think find the 2-minute or 5-minute smash most kills wins just really unsatisfying to play. Well,
it's also because in Smash it's like you keep your health between kills, so you sort of get a little bit right. Whereas I think with this, it's it's a one-hit kill. So as soon as the other person spawns, you're on even footing right away.
Yep.
If you're better, you could just get kill. In Smash Brothers, it'll be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There'll be a timing issue.
But also, there's something visceral about killing everyone. Like in Smash Brothers, when you are you kill someone and they lose a life, that's a big deal.
Yep.
But when you're playing the time attack, even though you're getting a point, and the point is what matters to actually win the tournament, it's not nearly as satisfying.
Right. I'm not sure if Towerfall has this mode because they didn't explore all the modes, but another good way to balance this out is to say the winner is the person who gets the most kills, but we keep playing. The game ends when there's only one survivor and everyone has 10 lives. So as opposed to timing the round, right, you're using stocks, but the stocks don't determine who's winning, right? You can lose all your lives.
Yeah, they basically determine how long you've got to kill.
You can be the first person to die 5 times and still win. If you gave everyone else 4 deaths before you lost your 5, you now have 12 points. No one can conceivably catch up to that. Even though they're all still playing and you're going to get a drink of water and taking a leak, right? So you can combine both modes. I don't know if Towerfall allows that. It has so many modes, it just might. But use stock to control when the game ends. Use kills to determine who wins.
But in the end, I would say, if you have people who hang out at your house at parties,
and you want to play local competitive game on one screen with 4 controllers.
Just turn this on and leave it running.
There's not a lot of other choices besides the ones I've mentioned, like Bomberman and stuff. So, WarioWare, right?
Yep. This Star Wall, like
right. So even though I'm giving this one, a C plus, but potential for A plus if they improve it, right? Or not? Well, A at least. No, I don't know if it could be.
Oh
A+.
yeah, if there's a Towerfall 2, I'll probably pre-order that shit.
Yeah, that could a Towerfall 2 where they polish those things. That could be A, but.
Oh, I just noticed something. I pulled up the Wikipedia.
This still isn't a bad choice because there's not a lot of competition.
Quote, Thorson, so the guy, its mechanics were inspired by games of Thorson's use, such as Bushido Blade.
One-shot kill, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
I do like, that's it, that Bushido Blade.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's very rare that I can reference Bushido Blade.
Sure, I mean, one-shot kills. What are you going to reference? Bushido Blade and Rainbow Six. Those are the ones. Those are the one-shot kill games.
So, if you're going to play one of those games, buy this before you buy Brawlhalla, because
Brawlhalla is garbage.
It's just a Smash Brothers like knockoff.
It's not nearly as good as Smash Brothers. You may as well just play Smash Brothers. But if you're gonna be a Bomberman before you get this, and get a good Bomberman, there's a lot of good Bombermans out there.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
And the patrons this episode, in order of the amount of money they give us on an ongoing basis, are Nicholas Brandow, Rebecca Dunn, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian Kuntz, Jess, Mechanical Mind, William Eisenrose. The donation is coming from inside the house. MyStady.com. Phil Ulrich, Renee from New Zealand, 3 exclamation points, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Rare Laval, Brian Cedrone, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Solverod, Rim Eats Poop, Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Flame Darkfire, Samuel Cordery, Daniel Redmond, Chris Haddad, Doug Schneider, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. I worry if people keep adding pledges above the $5 level that I might have trouble with this list down the road, but I digress. The holidays are coming up, so like we said, there might not be as many episodes as usual. Geek Nights might slow down a little bit, but the production and all that other stuff, as you may have seen in the Patreon updates, are continuing. So expect some Rim's Rants, some special Rim and Emily episodes, maybe some Utena pre-production process stuff, and more. All this can be yours. Also, I will probably finish Undertale for real and get the supposedly true ultra-pacifist amazing ending that I'm supposed to get because I didn't kill the flower guy, even though I probably should have. And now I leave you. Now, normally I say your moment of literally the opposite of Zen, but I've actually found something pretty horrifying. And I don't apologize because I'm actually really happy that you're going to have to listen to this, but enjoy.
Once upon a time in the middle of the wood lived a little girl named Rabbit Hood. She wore a big red cape, you know where that's at, and all the day long her mouth would flap. She talked to the animals, talked to the bees. When no one else was listening, she talked to the trees. Sitting on a rock, she was frontin' real good, driving everybody crazy in the whole wood. She's rapping, little red rapping hood. She's rapping, little red rapping hood. Little red, little red. Well, she skipped off the grannies with a basket of bread, but when she got to G's house, she saw the wolf instead. She said,
I've seen someplace before and never forget a face. Not one like you.
She said,
My, what big eyes you have. My, what big ears you have.
she's rapping, little red rapping hood. She's rapping.
Now sing it.
Ooh, baby, ice, Mickey, get down. Everybody, ice, Mickey.
Now get back up.
Sing it with us, ice,
with a mission, a fine musician. Fun and dancing are the first requisition. Music in the key of peace and harmony. The world all together, and that's the way it has to be.
Moving to the beat, yellow shoes on his feet. When he's on the microphone, he gets you off your seat. Bringing down the house, cool as a mouse. Sing along with Mickey and you'll see what it's about.
Ice, Mickey.
I'm busting a rhyme.
Ooh.